Most watches are designed to be safe, timeless, and familiar, and there's nothing wrong with that. But every once in a while, someone looks at this basic design and decides to say, let's change it up a little bit. Like, what if we put a pizza on the dial? Make it a swimming pool. Put Mr. Krabs on the dial. And many other different things that come up. Today we're looking at 10 watches. A lot of people could say that they're strange, creative, unique, but one thing I can say is that they're beautifully different. Some of these could be relatively affordable. Some can cost as much as my car. And at least one of these made a whole Swiss design team go, what were they thinking? Let's get into it. Number 10, the G-Shock Manga Casio. We're starting off with one of the most recognizable G-Shocks, the GA2100, or as practically everyone in the watch community calls it, the Casio. It earned that nickname because the 8-sided bezel reminds people of the AP Royal Oak. Except this one can survive being dropped down a staircase and does not require selling your actual house. The Manga edition takes that familiar Casio shape and makes it look completely two-dimensional. Casio covered the case, bezel, straps, and dial with manga-style linework, screen tone shading, and printed shadows. The shadows are not coming from the lighting, they are actually drawn onto the watch. From a few feet away, it looks like someone sketched a G-Shock on paper and somehow pulled it into the real world. These models launched in Japan first in 2024. They later appeared in several Asian and European markets, but they never received a normal official United States release. So it's not strictly Japan exclusive, but for American buyers, it certainly felt like one. The sky blue version is fun, but I think the white one sells the illusion best. It genuinely looks unfinished, as though the designer forgot to color it in. This looks like someone tried to draw a Casio from memory during a very boring meeting, and somehow it turned out fantastic. That is exactly the kind of creativity this list is about. Number 9, Spinnaker Mr. Krabs. This watch is stupid. It is gloriously, unapologetically stupid. And I mean that as one of the highest compliments I can possibly give it. Spinnaker took Mr. Krabs, a cartoon crab who loves money more than he loves most living things, and made his face a dial of a serious automatic dive watch. And I do mean serious. This isn't some plastic children's watch that came free with the Happy Meal. This is a 43mm stainless steel diver with sapphire crystal, a Seiko NH35 automatic movement, a proper unidirectional bezel, and 300 meters of water resistance. You can legitimately take Mr. Krabs diving, although he would probably charge you an admission fee before you entered the ocean. Only 300 examples of the red Mr. Krabs version were produced for SpongeBob's 25th anniversary. It originally sold for around $445 and came with a bracelet and a matching silicone strap. Because it sold out, the secondary market asking price climbed quickly. One dealer benchmark I found was around $790, almost double the original retail price. That does not mean every example is automatically worth exactly that amount. This is a thin market with very few public sales. But it does mean Mr. Krab has apparently discovered another revenue stream. And no, Mr. Krab does not judge you for spending hundreds of dollars on a watch with his face on it. He would probably be far too busy counting the money you already gave him and developing a 5-step plan to obtain the rest. The character artwork is luminous, although I do not have clean lume footage for this exact version, so I'm not going to pretend we do. This watch should not work. Mr. Krabs' face should not belong on a 300-meter mechanical dive watch. And yet Spinnaker committed so completely to this idea that it somehow loops all the way around from stupid to amazing. I would wear this without an ounce of shame. Number 8, Studio Underdog Pizza Watch. I want to talk about how these absolute maniacs took a slice of pizza and said, yeah, let's turn that into a mechanical chronograph. This started as an April Fool's joke. Studio Underdog and Time and Tide put up a fake product page for a pizza-themed watch. Nobody was supposed to buy it. That was not the plan, except people did want it. Thousands clicked on the page. Hundreds registered their interest. Some people apparently tried to add the imaginary watch to their carts. So they basically had to make it. And honestly, respect. Look at this thing. The toppings became the dial. The sub-dials blend into the pizza design instead of looking like random circles pasted on top. The whole thing is ridiculous, but the execution is thoughtful enough that it still works as an actual watch. Inside is the hand-wound ST1901 mechanical chronograph movement, housed in a roughly 38.5mm case. So you're wearing a legitimate mechanical chronograph that also looks like lunch. That is the studio Underdog thing. They do not just print a small joke on an otherwise normal dial. They build the entire watch around the joke, and then they commit so hard that the joke becomes the design. If someone had told me 10 years ago that one of the coolest microbrand chronographs would be inspired by pepperoni, I would have laughed. And now I'm thinking that maybe I need one. The watermelon may be the watch everyone knows, but the pizza dial is the one that makes me admire just how far Studio Underdog is willing to take a ridiculous idea. Number 7, the Brew Metric. The Brew Metric is not simply a coffee-inspired watch. It is a watch with a coffee-related function actually built into the dial, and that distinction matters. A lesser brand would have put a picture of a coffee bean at 6 o'clock, used a brown strap, and sent out a press release declaring that it had captured the spirit of espresso. Brew actually gave the chronograph a job. Look at the highlighted portions of the outer timing track between 25 and 35 seconds. That represents a common target window for pulling a shot of espresso. When the extraction begins, you press the upper chronograph pusher, the central chronograph hand begins traveling around the dial. As it enters that highlighted 25 to 35 second region, you are reaching the general extraction window Brew designed the watch to measure. You stop the timer once your espresso reaches the yield you were targeting. And to the serious coffee people currently loading their weapons in the comments, yes, I know, 25 to 35 seconds is a general guideline, not a commandment delivered from the coffee gods. The beans, grind size, dose, pressure, and desired yield all matter. But the point is that Brew took the ritual of preparing espresso and translated it into a visual language of a chronograph. That is thoughtful design. The watch can also track longer periods through its 60-minute counter, which means you can still use it for something other than espresso. You probably will not. Most of us use chronographs to time absolutely nothing, press the reset button 3 times, and then nod approvingly at how crispy the hand snaps back to 0. I do use the chronograph function from time to time when I am swimming with my daughter and she wants to time her laps. But other than that, I don't use it very much. The Brew Metric has a compact 36 by 41.5 millimeter case inspired by 1970s industrial design, sapphire crystal, and an integrated style bracelet. Inside is a Seiko VK68 hybrid Mecha Quartz chronograph movement. Normal timekeeping is quartz, while a mechanical module operates the stopwatch that gives you quartz accuracy and reliability, but with a chronograph hand that resets with the satisfying snap we all associate with mechanical chronographs. It looks like a vintage television, an industrial timer, and an espresso machine somehow had a very attractive child. And it proves that an unusual watch does not have to be unusual merely for attention. Sometimes its difference comes from solving one very specific problem beautifully. Number 6, Bulova Computron. The Bulova Computron makes checking the time less convenient and dramatically cooler. Instead of placing its display on top of the case like almost every normal wristwatch, the Computron places its LED display on the front edge. You turn your wrist towards yourself, press the button, and the time lights up. Is that easier than glancing down at a normal watch? Absolutely not. But a normal watch does not make you feel like you're entering a launch code into a computer of a 1970s spaceship. The modern Computron revives the aesthetic of Bulova's late 1970s and early 1980s LED watches. The case looks like someone combined a calculator, a tiny gold bar, and a piece of equipment stolen from the set of an old science fiction movie. It is proudly inconvenient. You have to interact with it. You cannot casually glance at the dial. The watch makes you press a button and ask it politely for the time. But that interaction is the fun. The Computron is not trying to hide its digital technology or disguise itself as a traditional watch. It celebrates an era when glowing numbers still felt like the future. And honestly, I'm disappointed that more of the future does not look like this. Number 5, Mr. Jones' Perfectly Useless Afternoon. It is a watch built around the controversial idea that maybe you should stop doing things for 5 minutes. The dial is the swimming pool. A man floats peacefully in the water, accomplishing absolutely nothing. His extended leg points to the hour, and the tiny duck orbiting the pool shows the minutes. So the man does nothing, the duck handles the entire minute department. Typical management structure. Quartz version costs around $295, measures 37 millimeters, and uses a simple battery-powered movement, which feels philosophically appropriate. The watch is about relaxation, so even the movement doesn't want to work any harder than it has to. But there's also a more expensive mechanical version. That model grows to 40 millimeters and uses a Swiss-made Stellita SW200 automatic movement visible through the exhibition caseback. So underneath the picture of a man doing absolutely nothing, you have an entire Swiss automatic movement working tirelessly. The rotor is spinning, the gears are turning, the duck is completing lap after lap, and that man is contributing absolutely nothing to the group project. I respect him immensely. The design was created by Belgian illustrator Christophe Devos and was inspired by the idea that time spent relaxing is not necessarily time wasted. The message is strangely meaningful coming from a watch. Most watches exist to measure productivity, appointments, deadlines, laps, and elapsed time. This one quietly suggests that perhaps the best use of your next hour is doing nothing whatsoever. It is attractive, funny, and surprisingly calming.
Number 4. The Hamilton Ventura.
The Hamilton Ventura looks futuristic. Imagine seeing it in 1957. Hamilton told industrial designer Richard Airbib to create something without worrying too much about practicality. Apparently, he took that instruction very seriously. He produced this dramatic, asymmetric, shield-shaped case that looked completely unlike the traditional round watches surrounding it. And the design was not the only futuristic part. The original Ventura was the world's first battery-powered electric watch, years before quartz became common. Then Elvis Presley wore it in the 1961 film Blue Hawaii. Because of course he did. Look at this watch. It'd almost be disappointing to learn that Elvis hadn't. The Ventura is dramatic, excessive, instantly recognizable, and just slightly unreasonable. It is basically Elvis in watch form. Hamilton has revived and reinterpreted it repeatedly, but the company has never fully normalized the design. And that is important. The Ventura would probably appeal to more people if Hamilton rounded off the edges, made the proportions conventional, and removed the unusual shield shape. But then it would no longer be a Ventura. Nearly 70 years after its introduction, it still looks as though somebody sent it back from a future that has not yet arrived.
Number 3. The Xeric Triptych.
This Xeric looks extremely confusing in the still picture, but once you see it moving, the entire design begins to make sense. Instead of traditional hour and minute hands, 3 rotating arms carry the hour numerals around the dial. To read the time, locate the current hour, and look at where the numeral meets the minute scale. That's it. As the hour travels from 0 to 60 minutes, the next numerals gradually rotates into position. When the hour ends, the mechanism shifts the discs and begins the process again. This is known as a wandering hour display, because the current hour appears to travel or wander across the minute scale. The concept is centuries old, but Xeric presents it like a small mechanical solar system. This is exactly why we need real footage. A photograph makes it look like somebody spilled a box of numbers inside of a watch. Video reveals the logic. And the moment your brain finally understands how to read it, it's surprisingly satisfying. It is not merely displaying the time, it is making the act of discovering the time part of the experience. Number 2, the Cartier Crash. The Cartier Crash looks like Cartier designed a perfect dress watch, left it beside a heater, and then decided it looked better afterwards. The uneven case, warped Roman numerals, and twisted outline make the entire watch appear to be melting, and somehow it remains unmistakably elegant. That might be the Crash's greatest trick. It was created by Cartier London in 1967. For years, people created a story that its shape came from a Cartier watch damaged in a fiery car accident. Others claimed it was directly inspired by Salvador Dali's melting clocks. But the better supported account is that Jean-Jacques Cartier and designer Rupert Emerson deliberately distorted the shape of Cartier's maxi oval to create something genuinely new. And decades later, it became one of the most recognizable celebrity collector watches in the world. Tyler, the Creator, wore a yellow gold Crash in the Lumberjack video. Jay-Z has worn a skeletonized titanium version. LeBron James has worn an 18-karat rose gold skeleton model. Tom Brady and Timothée Chalamet have also been photographed wearing different versions. These are people who can buy essentially any watch they want, and many of them already own the obvious Rolexes, Pateks, and APs. The Crash is what you buy when merely owning an expensive watch is no longer interesting enough. It is rare, it is historically important, it is immediately recognizable to enthusiasts. But more importantly, it still looks legitimately strange. It is unmistakably Cartier while resembling no other Cartier, and almost no other wristwatch. The Crash proves that elegance does not require perfect symmetry. Sometimes beauty comes from taking a familiar shape and bending it into something that becomes completely new. Number 1, MAD1. The MAD1 is not simply a watch you wear, it is a watch you play with. It was created by Maximilien Bossier, founder of MB&F, a company known for building wildly complicated mechanical creations that regularly cost more than a house down payment. Max wanted to produce something more accessible while preserving the sense of mechanical theater that defines MB&F. The result was the MAD1. The movement architecture is effectively turned upside down, placing a massive triple-blade winding rotor directly beneath the top crystal. The rotor is made with titanium and tungsten, and it spins wildly whenever you move the watch. It is not a normal automatic rotor quietly completing its responsibilities behind a case back. The rotor wants attention. This rotor entered the room wearing a cape. It dominates the entire top of the watch, which creates another problem. Where do you put the time? MB&F placed the hours and minutes on 2 rotating cylinders around the side of the case. So you look at the side of the watch to read the time, while the top exists almost entirely for mechanical entertainment. Is this practical? No. But if practicality were the only purpose of a watch, we would all be wearing the same solar-powered digital Casio, and I would have to find a completely different hobby. The MAD1 takes the parts of mechanical watches that are usually hidden, the winding movement and interaction, and makes these components the entire personality of the watch. You flick your wrist, the rotor explodes into motion. You turn it sideways, the time appears. It makes the act of wearing a mechanical watch playful again. And that is why it's number 1. It is not different merely to be weird. Every unusual decision supports the same idea. Mechanical watchmaking should be visible, interactive, and fun. What I love about this list is that every one of these watches allowed themselves to be creative. What if a G-Shock wanted to become a drawing? What if a chronograph timed espressos? Some of the funnest things in life aren't serious, and we shouldn't be taking any of these that seriously. It's fun. And that's what I love about this hobby, is that we can be fun. We can have Mr. Krabs on the dial. We can have a Casio that looks like a drawing. We can make sure that we can sit back and relax one day at a pool. And nothing's wrong with that. It's fun. May not be your taste, may not be my taste, but for someone, they probably love it. So those were 10 beautifully different watches. I truly like the Brew Metric. I think that that's a special watch. I think it's great when you mix hobbies together. And that's what the Brew Metric does. Also, if you like SpongeBob, you can't go wrong with Mr. Krabs. And who doesn't like relaxing? I love sitting by the pool. I don't know who doesn't like sitting by the pool. It's a great way to pass time. And sometimes that's what it's all about. It's just having a good time. So let me know in the comments, which one would you wear? Which one wouldn't you wear? I'm Secondhand Scott, and I'll see you in the next video. And let me know if you want a part 2. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful day.